Hello, hello, little rats. Welcome back for another episode of Chatty Rats. I'm your co host, Rasheen, and I'm joined by.
Natalia, welcome back.
Oh my God, hi. Show us what you're drinking. That looks amazing.
I got these martini glasses. I'm basically drinking a gin and tonic with elderberry and rosemary. And I put it in a martini glass because I'm trying to bring glamour back into drinking since I clearly lost it when I was popping off. I kind of want to bring it back in my mocktail era. I said that in a previous episode how I want to start experimenting with spirits, and this is Ritual Zero Proofs. I can't recommend it enough.
Does it taste like gin, would you say?
I think so, yeah. Obviously less strong, than,
Yeah,
like, gin would be, but I feel like in the end, like, how you mix things up is, like,
truth.
really what makes a bevy the best, but I love it. I think it's a really good alternative.
Okay, slay. I saw this video yesterday and it just like reminded me of our entire conversation. So I was like, okay, I have to tell like the little rats and you about this. This woman was saying, this is how you know you have a healthy relationship with alcohol. If you can view alcohol the way you view sandwiches, that means you have like a healthy relationship with it. And her example was one day you might be like, oh, I'm craving a sandwich. I'm going to go have a sandwich. But the next day, you're not even thinking about the sandwich, right? Like you're going to go about your day. Same with the next day. Let's say you go to a party and they're like, "Oh, we have sandwiches and we have this. What would you like?" Maybe you'll have a sandwich, maybe you'll have two sandwiches. But you're not going to be thinking about the sandwich beyond being offered it and taking it. And she was like, if you can have that type of relationship with alcohol, that's how you know you have a healthy, normal relationship. And I was like, that is pretty crazy because she was like, "You don't need a sandwich. You don't, like, go somewhere and you're like, 'I have to have a sandwich,'" you know?
Yeah. You're like, "Where's my
I was like
sandwich? I need another."
I was like, "That's a really good analogy."
I know, I love that.
Yeah. But I am back at my apartment, guys. I am back after literally being not here for a month and a half. I was living at my parents' house and I really didn't want to go. And I could feel like they didn't want me to go either. It was like a mutual, like, just stay another night. Like, why not stay another night? And it just got me thinking about so many things. And I feel like when you start thinking about so many things, you're also like fed content around it. And my mind was just going all over the place. But basically, my little argument for today is that the American culture breeds loneliness, especially where it's at today. I don't think it's always been this way, but I think where we are today is just quite an interesting point in our culture. It's good to have a little chat so we can all be aware of it and then try to find ways that work for us to combat it. But
Yeah.
one.
I was gonna say, I'm definitely a part of 2 cultures, and I have the benefit of going to Peru pretty
Mhm.
often. I do see a very intense contrast as well.
Exactly.
And I'm like, "Oh, wow, we're lonely as hoes over here," but I always have
Yes.
that thought every time I go to Peru for, like, 2 weeks, and then I come back, and I'm like, "Damn, is it cold in here or what?"
Yeah. Even me noticing it with, like, living with my parents. So they're, like, more towards getting the retired age, but still, like, my mom has her brother and her sister that live here, and they're, like, always hanging out. Her and her friends are always hanging out. They're always talking on the phone. She talks to her sister who lives in London, like, every single day, and I'm like, "I love it." But it's because family is such a big, important part of the culture to the point where that's your core group, and then you have your friends, and I feel like probably Peruvian culture is similar in that
Oh, yeah.
sense.
You
But
don't move out of your parents' house until you are probably around 28 or if you get married, really. Like, it's
I
so
was
rare.
about to say that. Okay, so that's very, 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 very common in Iranian culture. Kids will stay until they get married, basically. And I don't get why living alone is so glamorized. Of course, me and you have talked about it, like living alone. It has its pros. You learn so much about yourself. You can create your own space, all that stuff, right?
Right.
But I don't know, just being back at home and like I have a good relationship with my parents, and I know that not everyone can say that. So I understand if that's not the case. But I do think if you do have a good relationship, why are we glamorizing living alone? Like, we're paying more rent, spending so much money. And then what I had realized is wherever I've lived in LA, I noticed that there's so many dogs and cats. And I feel like it's because we just need companionship. We're not meant to live alone, you know? That's not how humans have lived throughout the centuries. So I was thinking about that a lot.
I mean, I have a cat, so I have not been alone for years. There's something about having a living thing, like
Yeah,
something with you at all times. Cause yeah, I think that's a big reason why I don't feel lonely living in my apartment by myself is that I have a little kitty that like loves me and wants to cuddle and hang out with me. And like that's very nice. I do think I would feel probably differently about living alone if I didn't have my little baby Opie.
exactly. It's like
Yeah.
it's nice to just know there's like another living thing witnessing life with you. And yeah, just being there, I was like, oh, these little in between moments, doing the dishes together, just waking up in the morning and like saying hi to someone and going about my day. We would try to have breakfast together and lunch and dinner. So it was just like, I don't know, I loved it. And then, okay, I want your thoughts on this because I feel like you can probably relate with proving cultures. So, there is this guy on TikTok. He's like in his 50s. He's gone viral. He has like millions of followers. And I follow him too. Like, I love the account. But basically, his whole premise of the account is that he is taking care of his 91-year-old father who has dementia. He's
Mhm.
American. And the funny thing is, like, every single video he posts is about an interaction they've had or something that's going on, and the comment section's always like, "You're such a good son for, like, taking care of him. This is so amazing. Like, I'm so happy you have him at your home instead of, like, putting him in a home." And it just, like, got me thinking because I was like, senior homes don't exist in Iran. That is not what you do. The norm would be is what he's doing. Like, once you are an adult and you have your own home, your parent moves in with you, like, when they can't take care of themselves. I was just, like, finding that fascinating because it's such an interesting topic for people, hence how many followers he has, because it's not something they see, and it all goes back to, like, the individualistic culture that we're in.
To everybody else, it's like, "Oh my god, this guy's a martyr, like, he's an angel," but when I hear that, I'm just like, "Well, duh, like, who else is gonna take care of my mama?" Like,
Yeah.
I cannot picture ever, like, putting my mom in the
Mhm.
place, like, I'm like, "That's my girl. She took care of me when I was a teen, and, like, I wanna take care of her when she's old and wrinkly and cute."
Yeah, it's like the circle of life. Your elders take care of you, and then you take care of your elders.
Yeah, I know. That's how I feel too, and I just think that that's something that's, like, super important to me also, like, in a long-term partner, like, knowing that that's a fact, like,
Mhm.
when our parents get old, like, we're gonna take care of
Mhm.
them, right? It's important that someone has the same values that I do because long term, there'll be a time when I'm gonna have to take that responsibility, and I'm more than happy to do it, like, it's not even, like, a question to me.
I'm so with you. Like, there's no way on this earth. Like, it would make me cry to even think that I would put my parents in a senior home. Feels crazy. But yeah, I do think that a big, huge reason why I think that is because of my culture and how I've been raised. And like, my parents have always been still super involved in my life. They weren't like, you turned 18, hands off, like, we're not helping you anymore, do your own thing, you know? But also, I think the Iranian culture, which some people would criticize, as in like outsiders looking in, is so community driven to the point where it's like, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do this because I'm doing it for the goodness of all, or I'm doing it for the goodness of the community, or I'm going to be spending this much money, but I'm going to give it to my sister or my brother. But in an American culture, it's like, my money is my money. My money isn't for the community.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll help when I can, but I don't know. I've just noticed like such a huge contrast as I've gotten older, the
yeah.
individualistic versus the community based cultures.
I think in America, we value being self-made. So, like, if
Mhm.
you think about, like, every golden life, when you finish high school, you move out, you go to college, you
Yes.
become a rich person, you
Yes.
are a success. And then the next thing that's glamorized is you live alone, right? You can afford to
Yes.
live alone, therefore you have the wealth. And then it's so funny because then it loops back around to like, wait, you have to have a wife and a husband. So then you have to be in unison. But the main focus is the core family, like mom, dad, kids. And the rest of the family, like the extended family, is
Yes.
doesn't play like a big role anymore. I think parenting, in particular, is seen as like a core family unit thing. Like, I don't have time to talk to anybody else, but the
Yes.
reality is like in every other culture, the grandparents are involved, the tios, the uncles, the aunties, they're all in it to help you. It's just not the case here. Like, I see so many parents struggling, and that kind of leads me to like this video that I saw on TikTok. And it's a Spanish woman. I think she lives in the US now, if I'm correct. But anyways,
Mm.
the point is that she talks about how being a parent in the US is very lonely because she
Yeah.
says that like in Spain, she was like being a parent is a community thing. They have a lot of parks that have a brewery attached to it, a coffee shop, or like a place to get wine. And she was saying how like it's actually not weird for the parents to like go to the park, bring your kids and have a glass of wine. Like, you're not a bad mom. You get to hang out with your friends that also have kids, and then you have a built-in community there. She was like, "We don't stop hanging out with our friends. Your baby can sleep in the stroller until like 10 while you're out talking to your friends, like getting a beer, getting dinner, whatever. Like, a kid becomes a part of the experience." And she also brings it back to, when like in America, you see like a family with a kid walk in and everybody tenses up, like, "Oh, fuck, there's a kid here." Like it's a
Yeah.
weird, like, they're gonna start yelling. She was saying that over there, because they see kids all the time, it's not weird to bring your kid to, like, a winery or something like that at, like, God
Yeah.
forbid, 8 p.m. Crazy. People don't tense up as much, which makes the parents feel more adult-like. And that makes parenting very, very fun. And they have built in friends and community. And that's something that I definitely want to implement when I'm a parent,
Mhm.
even within like this American culture that I'm going to be a part of. But I think about like my mom and Hush when she talks about us as babies. And my mom said she had the most fun when she had kids. Meanwhile, when you hear a parent here, they're like, "Oh, it's beautiful, it's amazing, but oh my God, it was so hard." My mom always says it was lit. Her friend group, they all had kids, would all play with the kids. It was so fun. The parents would like kind of take shifts and like taking care of us, like the little gremlins running around. And like I remember growing up, like my parents being super, super social.
Mm.
So I've always associated having kids to what I remember from my childhood, which is like me passing out underneath a table somewhere. It was like a very beautiful childhood.
Yeah.
So that's what I would wanna do, like, bring my kid places. So, yeah, I thought that was very interesting because I think that adds to the loneliness, right? It starts with, like, your career, your job, and then even into parenting.
I'm trying to think about American culture from what I've seen, and I don't feel like it always was like that. I just think our communities and before, if we think to like the 50s and 60s, parents, if they were expecting a child, they likely moved to the suburbs. And then in the suburbs, they were very involved with the neighborhood. And it was like, oh, the kids are going to go out and play together in the neighborhood. And that's like fine. And I'm going to hang out and have a drink with the mom, you know? It was kind of like that, but nowadays, like, no one really knows their neighbors. That's also an added layer. No one really talks to their neighbors, and I just think we've become, like, more and more and more isolated. But another thing, okay, so I think about me and my friend group, and, like, we're all different areas of the US, and that adds another layer to it because I feel like, let's say we all lived in LA, then these types of, like, hangouts would be more possible. Then I think modernity adds another layer to it. I remember reading Aziz Ansari's book. It's called Modern Romance, and he basically talks about, like, what's going on in modern dating life and modern romance, and he talks about how we have so many more options, obviously, because before he was going through the statistics, but you would likely marry someone who was within 5 miles of, like, where you lived. And, like,
Yeah.
now that radius is the entire US or even bigger. Like, I
Damn.
have a friend who married and now lives in Canada, you know? So,
Right.
that plus, like, all of us going to schools in different places, moving and having the option of just, like, applying to jobs anywhere, all of those together stretch us out where, like, our community is just thousands of miles apart. So, yeah, times just have changed.
That makes me think about, like, us, our, like, best friends, like, you have Michelle that lives in New York, I have, like, Summer that lives in fucking London, and then my other best friend, Abby, that lives in Arizona, but I'm like, they're not here, and I miss that so much because 'cause we're sisters, you know? They're the sisters
Yeah.
I never had. I miss them all the time because I'm like, I miss us, like, having sleepovers, hanging out. They're the kind of friend that you don't put any energy in a sense, like, because 'cause they're your
Mhm.
best friend. You can be in
Yeah.
silence, but that's your best friend. Like,
Yeah.
and
And you never get tired of
it's
them. You're just we can hang out
literally
all day, every
they could
day.
be lingering in my apartment all day, and, like, I don't consider that as, like, "Oh my god, like, that's a person in my apartment, like, get out of my space."
Exactly.
But you're right, like, now we live in a world where, like, that can happen, like, we're not all in the same city anymore, and that's kinda sad. I don't like it.
It is. I when I look at my circle, I've made new friends now that live a bit closer, but let's just subtract that, and if I think of high school and college friends and even, like, work friends from my previous jobs, no one lives within at least, like, an hour drive. That's
Damn.
crazy. And then I've made new friends who are closer now, but still, like, that's insane. It's
So,
insane.
that poses the question, should we all move closer to our best friends? Like,
Do you
long
know there
term?
was Yes, there was an article about that. I think it was The Atlantic, like, they've had so many good articles, but they were
I
like,
know.
"You should move basically closer to your best friends for a higher fulfillment level," and, like, it used the example of these friends who decided to all, like, live within a block of each other in New York and, like, how it, like, went into depth of, like, how their life was. They would just, like, pop into one of each other's apartments and, like,
Ugh,
cook or do whatever together and just have more spontaneous hangouts, I guess.
I love that. That's funny because my LA friend group had that. I was the first one to, like, leave essentially,
Mhm.
and then they ended up getting apartments that were, like, 1 block from one another,
Oh, I
and they
remember you
had
telling me
that. Oh
that.
my god, girl, they had that all the time, and I was always so jealous. I was like, "Damn, that's so cute." Because I was the person that went off to, like, go find herself. But then it really every time I would go visit, it would remind me of, like, damn, that is what life is all about. It definitely has gotten me thinking that, like, long term, I maybe do want to live in a place where I have community. Like, I can love a city to death, but I think that if I don't have, like, a built-in community, especially when I have, like,
Yeah.
kids and stuff, like, I'm like, "I need to get the fuck out of here." I wanna have the popping into your house, let's cook together vibes. Like,
Mhm.
I and for some people, they might say, "Well, Natalia, that's not real." Yes, it is because it's real literally everywhere else that's not the
Yes,
US. So it's very real. Actually, as a matter of fact,
it
we're
is.
the fucking weirdos that are fucking lonely.
That's what I mean.
In Peru, like, my aunts see each other at least once a week.
Exactly.
They hang
And
out, they
that
go into
once
each
a
other's
week is
houses.
everything.
Yeah. They go into each other's houses, they cook. I'm like, "Y'all are so fucking cute." And,
Yeah.
like, I want that. I think it's tough because, like, some people, like, may not like their families, and I understand, like, that's a whole different complication. But even if not through family, like, friends are your chosen family.
Mhm. Exactly.
That can be a very meaningful relationship that you have to cultivate. So, yes, it's great to have, like, a partner that's, like, your built-in best friend.
But it's
That's
not enough,
never
yeah.
going to fulfill you forever. So, like,
Yeah.
you do need to have that community.
That was my other little epiphany because I was thinking about it. Iranians, like, I don't think the divorce rate is that high, and love my parents, but I just think a reason why they maybe have stayed together for so long is because their partner isn't their everything. My mom has so many, like, I feel like her sisters, for example, are such a big part of her life. They're her best friends and her brother. And then also, like, all her best friends, they're so in the forefront that doesn't lean, like, 100% emotionally on my dad for, like, her fulfillment.
Yeah.
And I think that is a huge part of why I don't feel like the Iranian culture you see as much divorce is because 'cause they're not like, "If I'm not fulfilled in this, then I'm not fulfilled in life." 'Cause here, it's like that is such a huge part of our happiness. It's our everything, you know? And I
Yeah.
was just thinking about that and I was like, "Huh."
Yeah, and you know, like, what gets me thinking too, and this might be scandy, but I wonder if part of this is because of our mental health movement has been a great thing because it destigmatizes taking care of your mental health, but I've also noticed a lot of people turn that into this idea of, like, perfectionism. So, like,
Mm.
if let's just say family. I feel like sometimes when we go to therapy and we uncover some things from our past, and this is, separate from deep, deep trauma and like
Right.
abuse, different conversation. For an example, I've seen a lot of people be like, no, like, F my aunt, F this, F all of y'all. So I'm going to give you an example. My mom's sisters, they're so cute, they're best friends. By no means are they all perfect women, and they don't always have,
Exactly.
like, the perfect dynamic, but at their core, they love each other and, like, they hang out, and they kick it, and they're not expecting each other to be perfect to be able to hang out, and I feel like sometimes when we go through therapy, some people, I feel like, take it a little too far, and then all of a sudden they look around and they're alone, and that
I
can be
agree.
very tough, I think. So, you don't have to have a perfect relationship sometimes to, like, have something with family. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because if that was the case, then I wouldn't have a relationship with anyone, if, like, I
I
was seeking
know.
perfectionism. Because like I said, there's a difference in, like, family and friends. Friends, I feel like that can be your chosen family. You can have whatever you want, but with family, you're given what you're given. So I feel like sometimes it's worth being accepting of, like, certain relationships. Obviously not ones that are, like, really, really bad for you, but, like, if your cousin Mateo is, like, kind of annoying, still show him a little love, you know what I mean? Like, rather than be like, "No, F you don't fully fulfill me," and it's like, when you have so many relationships, sometimes, like, you don't have to be as, like, picky. I don't know. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
I agree with you, and I think I have, like, a very controversial take on it that most people wouldn't agree with, but it's, "Hey, this is just what I believe." I think too, the elections recently and how people will, like, cut off family members because they vote differently,
Yeah.
and I don't know, I just don't know if that's right. I think at the end of the day, we should all be allowed to believe in what we believe in, even if it contradicts one another. I think of even my own examples. I have family members that can say some toxic things, like, let's say, comment on my body or things like that. But I don't use that as ignition to then be like, I'm gonna cut them
Mhm.
off and set a boundary and, like, not hang out with them. I try to look at all the good and, like, love they give me and all the positive things, and yeah, if here and there they comment on my body, it's
Yeah.
annoying, of course, but I'm just gonna brush it off and just be like, "This is how they were raised." I'm not gonna try to
And
change them when they're this old, you know? So it's just like
right.
I rather just have that, like, positive relationship than try to fight it, and I feel like we've gotten in this culture where it's like, if you don't believe and act the way I do, then we just
The
can't even be
Yeah.
friends, or we can't even hang out, we can't do this, and you're toxic, and you need to be out of my life.
Yeah, I feel like we've become intolerant of, like, different belief systems, and part of being, like, a well-rounded person is understanding that in the world there's different perspectives and views. When I moved to
Mhm.
the US, I had to adjust a lot of my views as well, but I live in a world where, like, different culture and different diversity of people means different trains of thought. So,
Mhm.
like, if my aunt or uncle think a certain way, for example, you have to think about, like, where they come from, how were they raised, and that's also part of accepting different culture and, like, diversity, is that they're not going to think the same way you think. And now, I think as long
Exactly.
as no one's making you do anything or believe anything, you know?
Exactly.
So I personally would rather avoid certain topics with some family members because I just
Yeah.
don't think it's worth it and focus on the part of the relationship that I love. I love when we cook. I love when we go out and do some shopping. Like, I think it's so fun when we talk about fashion or whatever it is that we're connected on. I focus on that part of the relationship because guess what? I have another friend to talk politics with. I have another friend to talk about other things because
Exactly.
I have community. So I feel like when you don't
Exactly.
have that pressure, I don't know, it brings more people into your life, and then I think it's good to live with different perspectives. So I kind of have the same train of thought as you. I'm a little bit more forgiving when it comes to like people
Same.
having different views, and I don't have to be out here changing the world. Listen, I've already tried to fix up 1,000 men in my life in the past. I'm not here to fix
You've
anybody.
done your charity work.
I've already done it.
Yeah.
So that's changed my perspective a lot because there was a moment in my life where I started to become angry at everybody. And then I
Mhm.
was like not living peacefully. And ever since I started to be like, no one has to be everything for you, then I was like, oh, actually, like there is wiggle room for forgiveness and love,
Mhm.
you know? And I think that loops back into what I was saying about like family trauma. I've done enough work and therapy now where, at least for me, I have the privilege where I have forgiven and I have moved on and I have learned to start to grow loving relationships with them
Yeah.
with a new lens. And that has brought me a lot more peace in my life than having that hate.
I
And I
agree.
love it. Like we don't gotta paint each other's nails sometimes with certain people and like braid each other's hair, but it's nice to be like, we're cool. We're cool.
Yeah.
And I love that.
'Cause resentment, my dad would always say this, like, resentment is like a poison that just, like, will grow in you, and if you can't let it go, it's only gonna hurt you. I think that's what ends up happening if you do hold anger, resentment, these negative emotions toward family members. It just ends up hurting you at the end of the day.
Yeah. And, all in all, even if you cannot have a relationship with family, like I can encourage you guys to make an effort to build your own chosen family if that's what you have to do, because that
Yeah.
can be just as beautiful and just as meaningful as well.
Truth.
But wow, I love the turns this took. This is a very powerful
Yeah.
conversation. America, y'all are lonely as fuck, and we gotta stop that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good conversation to have to take a look at our own lives and be like, "Okay, how do can we work on building in a community because we're stacked up against a culture that doesn't really have it built in." So,
Yeah,
let's take the reins and try to change that ourselves.
I love that.
Let's all move in together. That's like my dream would be okay, I'll give you 2 scenarios. One is like a huge mansion where like all my families and friends could just live together. I'm talking like a huge mansion, right?
Yeah.
So there's like different ends and like we all like meet up in like the big ass living room.
Different wings of
Second
the house. You have the
yes.
west, I have the east, you have the north, you have the south.
Exactly. Okay. Second dream is one of the things I envy about the Kardashians is that they all have the houses kinda, like, next to each other, and they can get on their little golf cart things and, like, go to each other's houses. Oh, that is, like, goals. I, like, always talk about it with my mom. I was like, "How cool would it be if we all just had houses next to each other?" Like, that
Oh,
is legit dream life. So,
oh my
yeah.
god, that's like my dream. I've told my mom this before. I was like, wherever I end up, because a girl has moved so many times that I'm like, I can't have you following me around because
Yeah.
nobody knows. Nobody knows when she's gonna be like, "Fuck this place, bye." At least for now. My dream is to help my mom get a house within like the same block of where I live, so that like she
Oh.
can be super active with like my kids.
Yes.
And be my girl, because then that way you have your own quote unquote space. Like she's not
Yeah.
walking into me and my husband naked or something like that, but
Yeah.
she's clothes I love where she can like pop in whenever. Um,
Exactly.
I mean, and if my brothers could do that too, that'd be lit. I love, love, love that idea as well. And if my friend wants to move into the same neighborhood, say less, baby. Like
Exactly.
that is like how if I could envision a dream life, like that's what it would be like as well. So I have
Same.
the same, like, what is it called? A commune idea.
Yes. Let's all live together. Like, it would just be amazing. I would be so
Um,
fulfilled. Like, that's all I would need in my life.
no, same. So let's manifest that because that is like my long-term goal. If like family can't afford it, I'm like, baby, I got you. Like that would be like why I want to be rich is that so that I could
Yeah,
be like, don't worry, baby, you can move near me. I got you. I already bought it.
exactly.
That's literally why I want to be rich. It's for that.
I
Um,
agree.
yeah.
I'm so with you. I'll add
Uh,
one other layer. I own the local coffee shop. So, like, everyone just pops in, gets their coffee from me.
Way
Okay,
I'm
I'm
dead.
done.
No, Sheen, why are we like the same person sometimes? Like, so I've always said that if I was rich, like if I was retired and I had just like fuck around and find out money, like I would just open up a coffee shop. That is
Yes.
also a performance space at night. So it would be like comedy club at night and then a coffee shop during the day. And like that's my life. I have a cute little coffee shop.
Wait, that's crazy. Okay, my idea is, like, very similar because I want my coffee shop to be, like, a community space. So a place where people go to hang out in the community. So I wanted to add extra layers to it, like, DJs can perform if they're trying to build up, like, their playing hours or whatever it might be. So, yeah, we have a similar idea. Let's do it together
Let's do it.
sometime in the
Sheen,
2020s.
let's just move into the same neighborhood, Sheen. I'll follow you. Let's do it. We'll have my mom, your mom become best friends. We'll have houses next to each other. You live there, I live there. We'll force
Yes!
Michelle to live there. We'll force Summer to live there as well, and Abby, and then we're good.
Honestly,
And we're
if
done.
that is my life, I will die happy. That is, like,
Period.
dream,
I
dream.
love that. I love the idea of like your group community space because I do have that with the comedy community. Every time we go to like each other's shows, like being able to know like 10, 15 people, be like, oh my God, hi, how are you? Like that
Yeah.
is like the best thing that Denver has given me has been the comedy community. Like it's low key a cult. And there's like a couple of bars that are comics only type of vibe. Like there's a place called Wide Right. And I go and like I know everybody. I know the bartender, I know all the people. We say hi, good
Oh,
morning,
that's
kiss,
so
kiss.
nice.
That feeling of community is like
Yeah,
that's like the
unreal.
best part about comedy, not even me being hilarious, amazing, and iconic, it's that. Oh, wow, like, even if not we're not all best friends, like, we all have our groups within the big group, but it's such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing. So, yeah,
Oh.
stop being lonely, guys. Get community, but not so much where it's a cult, you know? Like, there's a fine line.
Yeah, I know, there's so many cult documentaries nowadays, and I feel bad because they are preying on people's loneliness.
Period. Loneliness is a disease that kills the most people in this world, so, guys,
Truth.
let's get on it and fix that pandemic.
Hey. Don't forget, little rats, to be the best little rat you can be and comment, subscribe, give us a review, do all those little things because you guys are the best.
Yeah, I was gonna say when you guys see Sheen's beautiful video with the pretty captions, don't just give it a like. Guys, I need you to comment. I need you to save that motherfucker because I know it seems like a little extra step. I don't care if you comment an emoji. It helps us so
Truth.
much.
It
The
does.
algorithm gods are like, wait, people are obsessed with them. And then they like help us. This year, guys, we want you guys to comment, interact so we can grow and we can build our own cult, you know?
Yeah, this is the year of Chatty Rats. We're gonna do it
Period.
for all the little rats. Love
Period.
you guys. See
Love
you
you
next
guys.
week.
Bye.